Hello, and welcome to an in-depth weather video. Today, we'll be talking about possible tropical developments in the Atlantic Ocean. Let's go in depth. Let's start with the National Hurricane Center. We're on the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook, and we have a disturbance on the board here, marked by this X. It is red, which means that it has more than 60% chance of developing. I think I've seen that this is currently at 80% chance that this will develop. So we're going to be seeing formation in this red striped area here. And let's just go through what they have. So a broad, elongated area of low pressure located over the Straits of Florida continues to produce disorganized shower activity and gusty winds from portions of southern Florida and the northwestern Bahamas, northeastward over the adjacent Atlantic waters. Gradual development is still expected, and the system is likely to become tropical or subtropical depression or storm on Saturday, while it passes the northwestern Bahamas and moves north-northeastward over the Atlantic waters east of Florida. Later in the weekend and early next week, the system is expected to move generally northeastward over the western Atlantic and east of the Carolinas. Now, this last portion is very, very iffy because there is a chance that this gets really close to the Carolinas, enough where we can be getting significant storm surge and also significant rainfall and winds. So we'll talk about that later. Next, I want to just clarify that the first named storm will be Arthur. So this will be either subtropical storm Arthur or tropical storm Arthur, depending on the structure of the storm. I also want to go over that here's the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. So you have categories 1, 2, which are minor hurricanes, but still pretty significant, so don't take them lightly. Then you have the major hurricanes, 3, 4, and 5. And you have all these wind types, and we're just going to be focusing on miles per hour. So 74 to 95 is category 1, 96 to 110 is category 2, 111 to 129 is category 3, 130 to 156 is category 4, and category 5 is 157 or higher. Now, you might be asking, what is the difference between a tropical cyclone and a subtropical cyclone? So I'm on Weather Nation, another great weather resource. So a tropical cyclone is purely tropical, it's symmetrical, and it has a warm core center, whereas subtropical has both tropical and non-tropical characteristics. So generally when you have a subtropical storm, you're going to have all the rain, moisture, and wind on one side, generally the right side of the storm. Now on the tropical side, you're going to have the winds not always evenly distributed around the low, but you're going to have the either tropical storm force or hurricane force winds around the center, kind of giving that eye when you look at the wind chart, not necessarily from the satellite imagery. Now, I just want to quickly go over where this is. So we're looking right down here. I actually want to do this so we can have a little bit more to look at. Now, I'm going to go up a little bit. So here's where we're watching. Areas in Florida, specifically Marathon, record an extreme amount of rain from the system already. But now we're going to be watching this thing develop as it's starting to get toward the point where it's going to be over the warmer Atlantic waters, and it could develop. Now, right now, we're kind of seeing all the development near the center of the low. kind of right here. Now, earlier, we were seeing a lot of development over here as well, but that has kind of dissipated, and now we're starting to see more of that tropical look out of this area. Here we are in the NAM 3-kilometer model. Here's our low pressure at the moment. Let's just get right on into it. Let's go in depth. Let's start in the southeast. So we're going to see all these clusters of thunderstorms. Right now, very sporadic, very spread out. Over time, we're going to see that this will all start to form together. Here's the main low that we're going to be watching. So now, we're going to start to see all these thunderstorms start to collectively join together. You can start seeing that more spiral shape. And then it's going to continue moving north, gaining more strength, moving into more open waters, and gaining more thunderstorm activity. Then we're going to start to see that spiraling starting to move northeastward. Now, right over here, so this is about 8 a.m. Sunday morning. This is when it really starts to intensify on the thunderstorm front. And that'll continue to go through its natural evolution, going through thunderstorms after thunderstorms. Now, this is when it becomes more subtropical. Is now you have all the moisture on the north and east sides. That'll, as we move to the NAM 12-kilometer model, kind of dissipate as well, and then it'll come back as it gets further north. This is also going to be getting pushed by this system over here. So we're going to go back to the NAM 3-kilometer model, and you have this storm system moving through Texas, and that's going to continue to move through, bringing some pretty strong thunderstorms tonight when I'm filming this to the Houston area and into Louisiana, and then eventually into Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then continuing to draw up Gulf moisture, and then we'll actually get into some of the thunderstorms as well. But this is kind of eventually going to get moved off by this system. This system's going to kind of kick Arthur, supposedly, or probably Arthur, out to sea. So if it was going on the track that it is, so it's coming this direction. So you would think that it might come a little bit closer to the northeast. But since we have this storm system here, it's going to come relatively close, but it's going to veer off a little bit earlier. So just a little bit. Storm surge will still be significant in the northeast as well. The entire coastline really will be getting some significant storm surge, but specifically from North Carolina to Massachusetts. So that's really where we're going to be seeing those developments. Now I do want to go back to the NAM 3-kilometer model, and we're going to go look at winds. We're going to look at over here. So now, this is in knots, right? So on the Saffir-Simpson scale, we're looking at about this range right here. So we need about, I think it's 35, 36. So we're probably in this like green area. So green to yellow, but I specifically like to look at yellow. So, because it gives you that more sure. So here we go. You start to see some collectivity. Now let's zoom in. Okay, let's zoom in. So you start to see that circular pattern. Right now, everything is to the right side. Then it starts to blossom out. We're going to move to the 12 kilometer. And still, everything is just to the east side. So, right now, according to the NAM models, this is looking like a subtropical storm. To be a tropical storm, we really want to look for closure, a real circle, a ball of winds, and as the storm gets more developed, you'll start to see the eye of the storm. So since we don't have that, this will probably be subtropical. Now, that doesn't mean that storm surge won't happen. It might just be a little less than you're used to with a tropical storm. So, still looking at, and I think that's on the GFS model, we're going to be looking at our wave heights being a little lower. I also want to look at vorticity, which we have a pretty decent amount of. I actually want to get back to 0 here. So the darker this is, the tighter the spiral is. So we're going to be going through here. You start to see that spiral, and then it really starts to get developed once it moves into the open waters, and then it gets more developed, and then it kind of weakens as it gets more spread out. So that's all I wanted to do for the NAM models. Let's move on to the GFS. So here we are on the GFS model. Here's our low. Let's just quickly go through this. Moves off the coast. And then this is actually showing it getting a lot closer to the northeast and kind of blending into this other storm system. So the northeast, according to the GFS, will get a super soaker out of this system and more systems afterwards. So let's just take New York City. So they start getting rain at about 2 a.m. Tuesday. Continuous rain, basically, until Friday. So that is crazy insane. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Now I do want to look at wave height. Just gotta find it here. I think we could find it here. Yes. So here's the WW3 Atlantic. We're gonna look at significant height and direction of combined wind waves and swells. So let's start through. So this is in feet. So this greenish yellow here is about 10 feet. So along, I want to see if we could zoom in here. We can. Cool. So in Florida, you could see some 7-foot waves. Then North Carolina, you could see on the Cape Hatteras area some 8-9-foot waves. Then let's move into the northeast. Now Long Island could see some 9-10-foot waves. Then it gets even worse right about here. So Long Island could be seeing close to 15-foot waves. Cape Cod could see about 13-foot waves. Jersey Shore, the northern portion, could see 10-foot waves. And then even if into Maine, some areas of Maine could see 6 or 7-foot waves. So basically from North Carolina northward, we're going to be seeing most of those swells. Now this isn't the average, it's just significant height. So this could be off by a little bit. but it's a metric that is very interesting to look at. Now, let's go back to the GFS. We're going to come out of the northeast. We're going to go back to the full model run, and we're going to go back to now. Then we're going to look at the wind. So this is also showing subtropical. Very subtropical. And yeah. So this is just showing it to be subtropical as well. The closest to it being tropical would be about right here. Then it kind of goes full on subtropical. That's all I really wanted to show with the GFS. Let's move on to the European model. Here's the European model. Let's just click through it. Very similar to the GFS. Shows it actually dissolving and then reforming. This shows it being a little bit further off the coast. So this shows it getting closer to North Carolina, but still a little bit further off than the NAM. And then just continuing to go northeast from there. And let's also do that's vorticity. Here we go. So we've been using 850. So now this is also a different scale for here. This is in knots. So we're looking again right over here. So again, we're seeing subtropical areas near 42 knots. Still subtropical. This shows it being continuously subtropical. Even some 60 knot areas as well. And then moving out. So just quick European model coverage. So let's go back here. Arthur, looking to be subtropical, but could still pack a pretty decent punch for being May. So something definitely to look forward to and track throughout the weekend. You also have some other thunderstorm activities. If we wanted to go back to 3-kilometer model, we have the storm that's going to eventually push this off the coast. That will be generating some decent squalls. So this is tomorrow morning. You have kind of two low pressures churning off of each other. So some pretty decent squalls can come out of that. Then one dissipates, the other takes over. And then throughout the day, could see some thunderstorm activity. And then that ends up off the coast.